I don't do this every year, but I figured with all the wild rumors and speculation out there, we could have some fun with our silly season predictions this time around. I've had some hits in the past, like I correctly predicted Noah Gragson getting to the Cup Series when he did, but I've also gone out on a limb a few different times and had the branch break underneath me, like, what the heck was I talking about 3 years ago? And why did I think Justin Haley would go to Chip Ganassi Racing in 2021? Who let this guy cook? I'm gonna do my best to back up each one of my predictions with actual real-world evidence. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with any of my theories. Let's start with what we already know. Spire Motorsports has set their lineup. Corey LaJoie will drive the 7. Michael McDowell joins the team, will drive the 71. And Carson Hocevar returns to the 77. We also know where Ricky Stenhouse will be. He signed a multi-year extension with JTG Doherty Racing. There are some questions around ownership, sponsorship, but it appears Stenhouse will stay in the 47 for the time being.
Yeah, I can't comment on exactly what's going on with sponsorship stuff, but the race team is working very hard on that.
My first bold prediction perhaps is that Joe Gibbs Racing brings back all 4 drivers next year. That's right, I do not think Martin Truex Jr. will retire. I think he pushes that off for at least 1 more year. He's just too damn good. He's second in the regular season standings. He's still at or very near the tippy top of his game. Hamlin returns to the 11. I think Truex is still in the 19 for at least 1 more year, Bell in the 20, and of course Ty Gibbs in the 54. If Truex does in fact retire, that's going to shake things up. I think Chandler Smith is next in line. He's been very good in the Xfinity Series this season. There's a reason perhaps he came crawling back to Toyota after that weird 1 year away at Kaulig. He sees a path to the Cup Series. If it's not next year, it could be the year after. Moving on, I think Richard Childress Racing brings back the same 2 drivers, Austin Dillon in the 3, Kyle Busch in the 8. Kyle Busch has said he has a contract. He will be back in that car next season. Austin Dillon is more of a question mark. If Austin Dillon continues to struggle this year and then struggles again in 2025, I believe his Cup Series career will come to an end. I think he'll move upstairs into a leadership role within Richard Childress Racing. He'll follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, his father. If Austin Dillon can't figure things out with Justin Alexander this time around, I think he'll be kicked upstairs after next season to make room for either Austin Hill or maybe Jesse Love, or we'll assess at that time. For now, Dillon, Kyle Busch, I think they keep their rides for another season. Hendrick Motorsports, their 4 drivers are set. No changes there. It'll still be Larson, Elliott, Byer, and Bowman. No change. Same with Team Penske. Logano, Blaney are the 2 most recent champions. They're not going anywhere. And Austin Cindric will get at least 1 more year. His father, Tim Cindric, of course, is an important Penske Motorsports executive. He's 20th in points this year. That's a slight improvement, I think. Sticking with Ford, I think RFK looks the same next year. Brad Keselowski in the 6, of course. Chris Buescher in the 17. Keselowski confirmed Buescher has a multi-year contract, so he is not going anywhere. I think RFK would like to add a 3rd car, a 3rd charter, but I don't think the timing is right. Rick Ware Racing will stay largely the same as well. Justin Haley has been very impressive in that 51, and I think the 15 will continue to be sort of a rotating group of drivers. You'll see Cody Ware, the boss's son, in that car some. You'll also see drivers who bring funding, maybe even Kaz Grala, who's had a few decent performances this year as well. All right, now that we've established a baseline, let's discuss the key players of this year's Silly season. So much of Silly season hinges on Stewart-Haas Racing. Bob Hawkers has reported that SHR has sent prospective buyers information on what charters cost, what's for sale. Reporter Matt Weaver stated that some of SHR's buildings and racing operations are even for sale. Then, just last week, SHR driver Chase Briscoe said if SHR is still around next year, suggesting this team's future is even more uncertain than we all initially realized. I've heard through the grapevine, and this is just a rumor, that everything is for sale at Stewart-Haas. They might keep their Xfinity Series team around, where they supply cars to Ryan Sieg. They're an important asset to Ford, but the future of their Cup Series program looks bleak. Tony Stewart, Gene Haas are basically MIA. Joe Custer is running the show over there. I believe he will still be involved in NASCAR in some way, shape, or form, but I'm not so certain Stewart-Haas Racing sticks around. Reporter Adam Stern believes their charters could sell for $20 to $30 million a piece. At that price, it's safe to say there are 3 or 4 teams that are very, very interested. I'm buying the doomsday scenario. For the sake of this video, I'm going to keep things quite simple. Stewart-Haas Racing sells. They are gone. No more Cup Series team after this year. 4 charters on the move. Here's how I think that would go. Front Row Motorsports will buy 2 of them. Front Row Motorsports general manager Jerry Freese said recently that they'd like to get to 3 charters. I think they end up with 4 and effectively replace Stewart-Haas Racing as Ford's new key partner Cup Series organization. I also think Front Row will move into at least part of Stewart-Haas Racing's campus. They'll need that extra space. I think Ford will help supplement the cost. I think that's the transition. If there's any merger this free agency, I think it's between Stewart-Haas and Front Row, so to speak. That's where Cole Custer to the 34 comes into play. He's a Cup Series winner, defending Xfinity Series champion. He gets another shot in the Cup Series. Noah Gragson has revitalized his career. He brings some sponsorship from Bass Pro Shops and other loyal partners. I think he gets the 36. I just made up the 35 car. It's been a while. But how about Josh Berry? Experienced racer, doesn't bring a ton of funding, but let's hypothetically say he and Rodney Childers are some sort of package deal. We know Rodney Childers is a huge Josh Berry cheerleader, and that's the kind of established championship crew chief that could come over and build Front Row Motorsports into a contender. I'll give Josh Berry a seat, and then Todd Gilliland, of course, stays in the 38 car. They love him over there. That's my first big, bold prediction. Front Row buys 2 charters. They effectively become the new Stewart-Haas Racing and pick up many of their young drivers who may otherwise not have seats. That means 2 other charters are still for sale. I think Trackhouse gets 1 of them. Trackhouse is in an odd scenario. Right now, they only have 2 seats for 4 potentially Cup Series ready drivers. They have to be aggressive. They have to make some moves this year. I think they get 1 charter for Zane Smith. Zane is a Truck Series champion. I know his rookie year has been a struggle, but bring him in-house, I think he'll flourish. I know Zane Smith is a good driver. I know he's better than what he's shown this year. I think Zane Smith joins Trackhouse, the mothership, if you will, next year. I don't think Shane Van Gisbergen gets a full-time Cup seat next year. I think they make him wait 1 more year. He's been good in Xfinity. He's 15th in points in a Kaulig racing car. Couple of top 10s. Should have had another top 5 at COTA, but got penalized. He's more than capable on the road courses, but NASCAR is so much more than road courses. I still think Shane Van Gisbergen, only 34 years old? Oh, he just turned 35. Happy belated birthday, Shane. Still mid-30s. I don't think they need to rush him to Cup just yet. I was talking to Brennan Poole, Xfinity Series driver who races door-to-door with Shane Van Gisbergen almost every single week. And for what it's worth, he doesn't think Shane is quite ready to make that jump full time.
He's doing a fantastic job. Just he needs
it's just hard
experience.
Yeah,
It's Cup is real hard, everybody. It's real difficult. So it's a different ball game.
I think Trackhouse needs to focus on improving their team's overall performance before they consider doubling in size next year. I think they get 1 charter. It goes to Zane Smith. The 4th and final Stewart-Haas Racing charter ends up with Toyota, 2311 Racing specifically. Bubba Wallace in the 23, Reddick in the 45, and Corey Heim goes full-time Cup next year. Corey Heim was so impressive in his 2 starts for Legacy this year that Mobil 1 is putting him in a 2311 car at Nashville next month. I see that as foreshadowing. I think Corey Heim will get the nod next season. I know Denny Hamlin, Curtis Polk, the whole team at 2311 seem to be disillusioned with NASCAR leadership and their proposed new charter agreement, but if SHR is truly selling all 4 charters for $20 to $30 million, I think at that price, this is too good of an opportunity for them to pass up on. They just opened up Airspeed, new shop. I know they're not calling it a shop, but that's what it is, and it can hold more than 2 full-time teams. I think 2311 buys a 3rd charter, and my prediction is Corey Heim passes up Chandler Smith, if you will, and goes full-time Cup racing next year. That's just a feeling I've got. which means Legacy Motor Club does not make any major moves. They bring John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones back. This is still a new Toyota team trying to get their feet underneath them. They've run better than they did last year, but they are still struggling mightily compared to their Toyota teammates. Legacy Motor Club runs it back. And I think Kaulig Racing holds on to their 2 charters. I think if the price was right, they would be happy to sell. But with Stewart-Haas Racing putting everything on the market, driving the price of charters down, I think Matt Kaulig and Chris Rice will wait for at least a year. They'll run it back. They'll bring AJ Allmendinger back to race the road courses, as well as a few other drivers who can pay the most. And the 31 will likely be driven by Daniel Hemrick for another year. I think Kaulig Racing is going to hold off for a better deal. They do not make any major moves this season. They look ahead to 2025, 2026. Chris Rice did say last week on Sirius that they are not merging with Trackhouse. So I'm going to take him at his word.
We're not merging. We're not doing anything like that. We are very close to Trackhouse, and we will be close to Trackhouse for a while, but we're also close to RCR.
There are 2 Stewart-Haas Racing drivers and 1 race team I have not yet mentioned. I think Chase Briscoe ends up with the Wood brothers. Harrison Burton has struggled the past 3 seasons. Y'all forget, but before Harrison Burton got there, Wood brothers made a deep playoff run with Ryan Blaney. Matt DiBenedetto made the playoffs in that car during the pandemic season. This is a playoff team, technically a 4th Penske car. Ford likes Chase Briscoe. He's been Stewart-Haas's best driver this season. I think he brings some sponsorship from High Point at least. He's a good dude. Everyone likes him. I think Chase Briscoe ends up in the 21 and will still be able to contend for a playoff spot. That unfortunately leaves Ryan Preece, Harrison Burton, the odd man out. Could see them both going back to Xfinity. We know what Ryan Preece is capable of on the modified tour. He just hasn't been able to figure it out in Cup, unfortunately. I don't see a seat for him next year. Those are some of the major moves I could see happening this silly season. I would hate to see Stewart-Haas completely dissolve their Cup Series program, but if they do, it's an opportunity for Front Row. It's an opportunity potentially for Trackhouse, 2311, Legacy, maybe RFK. We will have to wait and see. Let me know down in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with any of my theories. Which ones can you pick apart? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for tuning in, following along. Hope you had as much fun with this as I did. I know it's all a bit overwhelming, but hopefully together we can make sense of the madness this free agency. I will see you all again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.